Okay, so if we all stayed under the covers in depression about climate change, nothing would happen. Some of us get our clothes on and walk out the door and get on stage and really infuse the public with possibility and with joy. And Jiaying Zhao, who goes by Jay-Z, is a professor that did just that in her TED Talk. And the stats are staggering about how individuals can actually impact. It's true. We can really impact climate change, and we can have a good time doing it. We can not be depressed. We can have fun. So I want to talk today about happy hacks and things that we could do in our lives that are really joyful, and that can also impact climate change. I know we look at the Paris Accord and we look at corporate governance and we hope that that's going to change things from a macro level. But as individuals, there are billions of us who can make change and make the planet a safer place to live. So we're going to dig into that. But first, I really want to ask you, when you hear climate change, how bummed out do you get? Where does it live in your heart? Let's just be honest about it. And what are the things that you do in your life that you think actually make a difference? Or are you just sitting there thinking, I can't make a difference, it's too big? But let's get to the emotion behind this. Jay-Z is a behavioral scientist, so they're very into this whole idea. So there's not going to be a big disconnect, I think, between how you're feeling and how you're impacting the world. So we're going to get down to that base level of like, what are my behaviors about? What's my mental health around this? And how can we change all of this? So, Jay-Z, welcome to Swell. I'm excited to hear your voice. I'm psyched to hear everyone's voice. Please chime in if you're listening to this and you're having emotions around this, or you have a hack you want to share. But we're going to get into it, and we're going to stay. I'm imposing a positive mentality here. I want us to feel positive about this, because I think about myself, the way I eat, the way I garden. I know I'm impacting the world because I'm not doing a lot of meat. And we'll see a stat. If you could watch the TED Talk, you'll see a stat that's staggering that shows you that, 1,000 kilograms of beef are so egregious when it comes to how it impacts the world versus a little bit of fish or even chicken or eggs. Like, these things are way less intense on the environment. So what if you cut out red meat? What does that feel like? Or just had meat as a little reward for yourself? All these things are going to be important for us to talk about. I'm not tired of this conversation about climate. I'm just beginning. I want to really make sure we're in this conversation because there's so much positive that can come out of it. So, JC, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to hear your voice. And for everyone else, let's get into this. And thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, because we have to talk about it and we have to stay in it and not just under the covers and worried. Here we go.
Hey, Deborah. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. This is Jay-Z. Maybe let's start small. Let's forget about climate change for a while. Let me ask you a question. What makes you happy? What makes you feel excited, hopeful? What brings you joy on a daily basis? I would love to hear these answers.
Jay-Z, I love how you're reverse engineering this, and I'm going to play with this. It's awesome. And I just invited a bunch of people, and I really like this, so I'm going for it. What brings me joy is to see the abundance of nature around me and to walk into it and to lie in it and to eat it and to grow it and to feel basic joy with sort of that primal sense of yumminess. So it's good food. It's feeling one with the environment. I live in a major city, Los Angeles, and yet I really feel connected to the environment. And that brings me immense joy, and especially it's topped with sharing it with other people. So there's my answer.
I love this conversation. And Deborah Pardes, I want to come garden with you. I'm not a gardener, but I recently have been growing these gorgeous lilies and planting them, and I found that there is this amazing joy and like little mommy feeling when something grows. I'm trying to grow lavender, and that's not working. But other than that, my immense joy comes from seeing the joy on others' faces. I work with a lot of children in finding their voice, and when they do that and they suddenly take hold of who they are or take up space in the world, I feel so good. My also other joy comes from being on stage, entertaining people. But I also live in Los Angeles. So when you're stuck in traffic or stuck inside all the time, seeing the beauty of the hills, breathing in air that's not full of smog, and picking a lemon from a tree and cutting it up and putting it in a glass and adding hot water, honey, and whiskey. That also brings me joy.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for your answer. I really like your answer because that's one of the most popular answers I've been getting from people. And people feel generally very happy being in nature, taking a walk, biking, running in nature. And this is something that has been very well documented in literature that says exposure to nature, connecting with nature, actually makes us happy. And I want to say that the reason I asked this question is that a lot of things we do for our own well-being benefits are actually also good for the climate. I think that's the key insight I'm trying to get out in my TED Talk, which is we should do things that will make us feel happy and benefit the climate and the planet at the same time. So things like biking in nature, walking instead of driving, that's great for our own happiness as well as for the climate. Exercising outdoors is great. I think, taking more active transit in general makes us feel better than driving alone in a gasoline-powered vehicle. So that's a great answer. I really like it. Hi, Rena. Thank you for your answer. Gardening is also one of the happiest activities people report. In fact, we just did a study at UBC, at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and we asked people to document the kind of exercise they take over a month, and we asked them how they feel after taking that activity. And guess what the most happiness-inducing activity is? Gardening. And gardening turns out to generate the most amount of happiness among students, staff, faculty on campus. Now, granted that this is still a small study with only 100 and 200 participants, but that was the number one finding we have. And right after gardening, the second most happy activity is hiking. So this again goes back to what I said to Deborah. Getting outdoors, being in nature actually is very good for our own well-being. So yeah, get out more and garden more if you can. Now, I also recognize that not everybody can garden. For instance, I live in a high-rise condo in Vancouver. I don't have a garden, unfortunately, and I really admire people who do. So keep gardening. Now, the second point I want to mention is that social connection is one of the predictors of happiness. So if we spend more time with family and friends, we tend to feel happier. So we should do things that not only benefit our happiness by being with friends and family, but that, I want to say, can also be good for the planet. So what does that look like? Again, let's go back to driving. Instead of driving alone in our car, we can drive our friends and family. So carpooling is actually one of the happy climate actions. That's not only good for the happiness, but also good for the planet. Another example is maybe biking with friends, walking with friends, doing things with friends that will bring all of you joy. So I really appreciate your answer. Thank you, Rena.